been doing some thinking, which is always a little dangerous and hard. Hurts. I was thinking about some ways I can have some fun because sometimes, gallivanting around the USA on a motorcycle just can't happen 100% of the time. When you're drinking back at the hotel or you're having some fun around the house or something, I still want to be able to motorsport. So I was hanging out with Mike Seastrom and Frank in Texas at the Born Free motorcycle chopper thing, and we were talking about little powered beer crates, and that really sparked something in me. I was like, that's perfect. That's something that you can do less than sober. You're not going to get too fucked up on it, you know. Um, and it'd just be funny and fun. And so I started walking around the garage, and I found a few things. I found some spindles, and I got some 8-inch wheels. Let me grab something else. So we got spindles, and they're pretty heavy duty. Heavier dutier than we're gonna need, but we have them, so let's use them. Non-marring wheels off of a dolly, right? That's okay. Now here's the only thing I had to buy, and so I went kind of cheap because we're just playing around here. But this is one of those. It's a motor and a hub and a brake. Look, it's got its own little drum brake, all in one, for scooters, like the bird scooters everybody running around on. And I was like, 3 wheels is cheaper than 4, right? And because I was thinking about like motorcycle things too, mini bikes and the like. I like the thought of the mini bike, but I can't see a way for it to be done without being ridiculous and hurting somebody when we're too drunk. So I was like, okay, well let's stick to 3. That way it can still be kind of motorcycly, but then also be something stable. I went for a 500 watt 36 volt motor. 36 volts, 500 watt, should be enough to move this thing around with a fat guy on it, and that's without getting too ridiculous. You set up a cone course, you should be able to navigate it and have a good time without breaking the budget. This is fairly cheap. I want people to be able to do this so we can have a little racing league for something to get us do something crazy, but without it being like, heavy entry fees. So, it comes with the controller, comes with a little throttle and a key, and I don't have it hooked up to the battery or anything, obviously, but I did get a battery. Oh, and 36 volt batteries. 36 500 volt batteries are real cheap. When you bump it up to like 48 volt, they start getting more expensive. Anything more than 500 watts, if you get 1,000 watts, it gets more expensive. 800 seemed about the biggest you could go on these bad boys, 800 watts. But then like a 48 volt, 800 watt battery, talking hundreds of dollars versus, $50 is what I think I paid. So I was looking around and I was like, okay, well, we got wheels, we got spindles. We spent $100 on this. It was on sale, $100. I think it's normally like $130. This wheel and the throttle and the controller. You know, we're going to need various steels. We got some tube back there, got some square tube. You know, but okay, so we got a base here, but we need a little more. So I was looking around the garage and I found this. The old knee scooter from when I broke my ankle. So now we have these things. So insurance pays for them, right? I don't know if you've ever broken anything, but insurance pays for these, and then you can't get rid of them because insurance keeps paying for them. So you need them until you break your leg, and they either sit in the garage forever because you think you're going to break your leg again, or you know, throw them to a Goodwill or something, and nobody wants to take these anymore. So I found that there's a lot of these available for just a few bucks, right? It's not much. So I'm going to base everything off this because these are cheaper than like kids' bikes, right? And then, you know, you're not taking anything away from kids. Like kids can actually use this. This insurance just keeps buying new ones, so fuck it, right? And so now we have a steering head and a steering lock, right? It's got a lock, so you can only turn so much. Wait a minute, mosquito. And it's collapsible. Got everything you need, and the handlebars are the right size for this. But yeah, it's got the things to run the little brake and some steel that we can cut up and use for other parts. And you know, if you bought a wheel without a braking system, this has an old school pressure brake system, kind of like an old mini bike. So I'm like, cool, now we can salvage that front end, right? And some other various pieces, but it also came with another piece. You know, it's got the seat. So now we have the ability, we can carve this down and then build it up, build the foam. So we've got a really good platform. I'm probably going to cut this off and, you know, figure out a different way to fix it because it's like an off-center thing. But yeah, so I'm going to be able to, you know, cut this foam, add extra foam, maybe turn it into an old school like banana seat. You know, we've got a lot of ideas we can do with this, and it's, you know, it's a heavy duty base foam, so you know, we're not going to be riding this thing for, you know, 1,000 miles, so it doesn't have to be the most comfortable thing on earth. But so now we've got a seat, and the good thing about knee scooters is they're meant to hold a lot of weight. You know, these things are meant for, you know, bigger people who break a leg. So I mean, the structurally, you know, it's a great thing. I also found this in my garage. Wee. Don't tell Whitney. Every time I do something that about breaks my ankle, she gets mad at me. Found this on a walk with the dog. It's a little kid's razor scooter, and most of it's aluminum, so we can't use much. But the steering is steel and weldable. So we have this as well. If I don't like that setup, you know, and these are available for pretty cheap everywhere, and they're meant to handle a bit more weight than some things out there, and they're cheap. So now I found that we have steering components, we have a seat, we have throttle, we got a motor, we got steering, and then, you know, we're just gonna do the steering old school, like an old school go-kart. I'm gonna cut this off, you know, weld a bar on there so we can get it all done. But yeah, this thing. And so I was trying to think of a base, and I found this thing over here. Whee! So this thing is my first thought, and we still may use it. I like the size of it, but it may just be a little small. It's like 16 by 16-ish. And this came off of when you buy a the little jack that goes on your lift so you can lift up the bike while it's on the lift. The lift. The it's a strange concept. I need a lift for my lift. This, you could put it in there And then it's got little wheels you get attached to it, so then you can use it on the floor if you want to like do some work on the floor with that jack. And you know, I don't need it for that. So I liked that at first, but it's just maybe just a little small. We're going to try still. But this guy here is a tote dolly. And you can pick these up at Harbor Freight. This one's from Uline. They were throwing some away at work, and I was like, that's going to be perfect. I think this will work better. It's a real heavy duty steel. It's built for 750 pounds of crap. So I think this is going to be our best option, but we're going to kind of fiddle around. And I think that's where we're going to start, you know. So I think this is going to work. You know, I don't really have a plan here. I'm just trying to do this as cheaply as possible without getting ridiculous. There's these little cracks, you know, in the corner where they bend it up. I think I'm going to weld those just for sturdiness. And I'm thinking about cutting out the slot for the rear wheel, right? So we're going to have the rear wheel back here. I'm going to bolt these. Hold it for a minute. I'm going to weld these right, you know, up to the front. I haven't decided if I'm doing a flush or when I'm up high, you know. I think I might drop them just a bit and then brace it with an angle. And that way, and when I already checked this out, and we're going to miss by like 1/4 of an inch for turning. So I think that's going to be our turning radius, right? So we've got our turn, you know, I think we can do that. I'm going to use this guy, I think anyway. I was looking at this, and for the mount the rear wheel, it fits like a you know, a bicycle, where you have the odd shaped, or not the odd shape, but like the semi-oval the little washer that locks in. And I was thinking if I cut it here, and then, you know, cut this part off here, cut it on just on this side here, this could be the, you know, the lock, and then, you know, obviously drill it out and straighten it out, just come straight back, so you can slide the wheel in and lock it down. And I think that'd be the best way, I think, with what I've got, you know. And again, all this is fairly cheap. I've got a bunch of angle iron that's left over from Turd's original radiator mount. So we've got a lot there. It's a little dark in here, isn't it? Ooh. So we got a little, you know, we got that there. And then, you know, it's powder coated, so we're going to have to scrape it up a little bit. But yeah, so when we get the wheel on, get the tires on, I'm going to cut this out, you know, so we can mount the hub. I think I'm going to mount, I think I want the middle of the bolt to be in line with the end here. I think I want the wheel to sit, you know, I want the axis to be right here. I haven't decided if I want it in or out, you know. Maybe have it hang out the back a little bit. Probably going to do is kind of tack it up and then dry fit it and just kind of see how it feels, and see which way you know, if I like the look better, if I like, you know, the wheel to hang out a bit more. But then that leaves us this little strip for strength, and I think this will be strong enough. This is, you know, this was really heavy duty steel. But what I think I'm going to do, because I'm paranoid, is, so we're going to have this weld it on like so-ish, right? And I'm leaving that extra space here so I can weld a bit of that square steel up. And I'm going to come up 16 inches or so and, make a little platform here, run that to the front, and then this one's going to be wider, straight to the corners. And I'm also going to do a smaller one down here because I'm going to mount the steering components down here, and then the handlebars are going to come up. Because I want the swivel to be in like this. And then, so then we'll have this, and it'll come up thin back there, and then I'll do another brace that's kind of wider in the kind of in the middle, and that's going to be the seat brace. So then, we have this, or since we have this seat brace here, we can do a straight back weld like that, which I also might do. My only thought with this one is just to hold the back of whatever is going to be covering this, whether it's a beer crate or it's going to be who knows. I don't have that yet, so I'm kind of making it universally, if that makes sense. But yeah, those are my thoughts, and I've got it mocked up on my welding table here. And what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this. I'm going to start by cutting this out, grinding, cutting out, grinding it smooth, grinding the paint off the corners, and grinding off where I'm going to weld this guy. Then we're going to start by tack welding and cutting and getting a little mobile platform here that we can, see if it works. Then we're going to worry about the rest. But for now, let's start by cutting this bad boy up. Let's cut this and get it to where we can start doing some dry fitting. Sick, let's do it. Wee! 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 Check it out. I don't know if you can see that. I think we may have to figure out a way to incorporate something like this too. Pretty sick, yeah. Wait, you guys ready for a trick? Watch this. Oh yeah. Yeah. What do you mean you didn't come to watch me ride this scooter all day? Fine, I'll get to work. Damn.